Catch us on Facebook and Instagram at United Intentions and Twitter at Higher Intention. Look for us on 99.1 FM, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, and many more. Over the next hour, we'll introduce you to some fascinating people and engaging discussions that may provide you with answers to assist in revolutionizing your own personal health. And now, here's Dr. Nelson.
This is the United Intentions Radio Network. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash, and you're listening to another edition of Health Matters. If you're listening to us here in Atlanta on WGJY FM 99.1, or down in Florida on WWNN 93.5, thank you and welcome. We appreciate you joining us. For all others who are listening to us on all the major social media platforms, we welcome you as well. If you have not joined our show before, know that we take questions on Facebook Live, and we also have a call-in number, and that number is 678-495-4345. Once again, that number is 678-495-4345. We very much look forward to your questions later in the show and you calling in. I have three wonderful guests. We're going to be talking about chiropractic. We're going to help you adjust your view today of chiropractic. Gentlemen, I'm going to introduce all of you, and when I do, please feel free to give us a little bit of background information, okay? To my left, I have Dr. Charles Krieger. Charles, please share a little bit about yourself.
As Nelson said, I'm Dr. Charles Krieger. The name of my office is Krieger Health Solutions. I graduated Life University, then it was Life Chiropractic College in 1984, and practiced with my father, Dr. Arthur Krieger, back up in New York City from 1985 until his retirement in 2000. And then my wife and son and I moved down here to Roswell, Georgia, as my son was beginning Life University in the end of 2015. And had the great good fortune to open a really wonderful office on Warsaw Road. And I've been loving it ever since. It's great here.
It's great to have you, Charles. Thank you so much. Dr. David Adler to my right here. Dr. Adler, give us a little bit of background information about you.
Thank you, Nelson. I am a 1990 graduate of Life Chiropractic College. As soon as I graduated, I went to New York City, had a practice in Columbus Circle, Midtown, New York for about 4 years. My wife is from Atlanta, so we moved back here, and we love the community. I love taking care of our patients, and then we're celebrating our 25th year in our office in Roswell. I love the mixture of the practice I'm able to attain, and just a great time.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Adler. Dr. Gerry Clum, thank you so much, sir. We know you're on a different timetable here, calling us from San Francisco. Please introduce yourself and give us some background information about you.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen, and good afternoon to your listeners as well. I had the good fortune very early on in my career to meet and to get to know Dr. Sid Williams, the founder of Life Chiropractic College, which we know today as Life University. And I was appointed to the first faculty of Life Chiropractic College in January of 1975, and spent 6 years as a faculty member there in Marietta. Had a wonderful time. 2 of our 3 children were born in the area. And then in January of 1981, I was offered the opportunity and the position as president of Life Chiropractic College West in San Francisco. And we packed up the family, headed to California, and got settled in the Bay Area, and I spent the next 30 years as president of Life Chiropractic College West, retiring in January of 2011. At that time, I had the wonderful opportunity to once again become involved with Life University in Atlanta and to work through the president's office, Dr. Ekman's office, on special projects for them. And in the 7 years since I left Life West, I have continued to be involved there and represent the university to various bodies in the profession, directly in the broader circles of healthcare, and as well as in areas of broader areas of education in general. So I've had a wonderful career, a wonderful relationship with the Atlanta area, and I look forward to this opportunity to share some of our collective experiences and understandings.
Thank you very, very much, Gerry. So, gentlemen, before we get started, I want to share a brief story with you to create context for today's discussion. We'll see how quickly you can guess the show that I'm talking about. When I was a little kid, I was absolutely riveted, captivated by a particular show. It dealt with space travel. It had a very colorful crew, and they went out into space to other galaxies and met people far, far away. And I never, ever, ever missed an adventure. Anybody want to guess the name of the show we're talking about here? There you have it. It was Star Trek. Absolutely. So I loved that show, and I was very, very sad when one day it went off the air. But I thought about many of the lessons that I learned throughout the years, because it was a show that was very, very exciting. It also had many interesting lessons to learn from. So once it stopped, I continued to think about the notion of it. And of course, we had other neat space shows as well that were fun to watch. But it was the original. It was the predecessor. And some years ago, long after Star Trek was no longer showing as a series, I turned on the TV. I was tired one day, got home from work, and I turned on my TV. And of all things, there was a gentleman who was interviewing Leonard Nimoy, who, as we all know, was a gentleman who played Spock. And Spock happened to be my favorite character. So I thought, this is going to be fantastic. I get to kind of relive some of my memories of Star Trek as a kid. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, the gentleman interviewing Leonard Nimoy says to him very pointedly, "So, Leonard, tell me, what did the making of Star Trek do for you and your career?" And his answer shocked me to this day. He said, "Well, I enjoyed the making of Star Trek. It was a wonderful experience. I loved dealing with all the members of the show. However, by doing it, I committed personal suicide or professional, suicide, because no one could ever see me as anyone other than Spock. So I never got the roles that I was trained for." He said, "I was classically trained as an actor, and I was a very good actor, but I was so convincing as Spock, no one really ever took me seriously as an actor for other roles. So I got very few roles after that, and that was really, really difficult for me." So I bring this story to our attention because I think chiropractic, to a very great degree, has gotten itself, like the character Leonard Nimoy played, kind of pigeonholed, meaning we're thought of throughout probably the world, certainly in all of the modernized countries, as these professionals who are fantastic at handling musculoskeletal problems, particularly back and neck pain. Everybody agree with me?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So the problem here is that chiropractic is this magnificent science, art and philosophy that is so powerful at addressing so many other health concerns by freeing the nervous system and correcting alignment issues that make people function, feel, and heal in a way that is optimized beyond what it would be if we didn't have access to chiropractic. So, Dr. Clum, tell me, do you have research to support my thinking that it's far more than a profession that deals with musculoskeletal issues?
Absolutely. And not only do I have research, but I also have personal experience that I'd like to share with you as well. When I was a 12-year-old kid, I lost a great portion of my eyesight, and my parents were very concerned, and they had taken me all over the Northeast. We grew up in Buffalo. I grew up in Buffalo, and we went to New York City. We went to Cleveland. We wound up at the Cleveland clinics. I was assessed some very painful and horrific testing at the time. These were pre-CT, pre-MRI days. And my parents were told that the eyesight problem I had was likely progressive, and that I was likely going to be blind, and they'd better think about getting me into Braille school. Well, this is not the news that a parent wants to hear for any child, and as a 12-year-old, I really wasn't too enthralled with this prognosis either. And we went back home from Cleveland and to Buffalo, and my father had seen a local chiropractor for some low back problems, just as you entered this discussion. And I happened to go with him to the office, and we were the last patients of the evening, and he had asked my dad, he said, "You missed a couple appointments." He said, "What's going on?" And my dad explained he was off with me and my mom in Cleveland and doing this testing. And this fellow sat down with a Gray's Anatomy and a Guyton's Physiology and a Boyd's Pathology, and he began to explain to my dad what the words meant that the physicians at the Cleveland Clinic had given him that I had a bilateral optic atrophy of idiopathic origin with a likeliness of blindness as the prognosis. My dad was a bright guy, but he only had a 10th grade education. And I can remember sitting there as a 12-year-old kid watching the fear and the suffering drain from my dad's face when he understood what the words meant. And at the end of the conversation, a phrase that changed my entire life, this chiropractor looked at my dad and said, "Don, I don't know if I can help the boy. Guarantee I would not hurt him, and I'd love the chance to try." And I got my first adjustment that night. And 2 months later, when we went back to the ophthalmologist at the end of the summer, and he sat down, I won't give you the exact quote because it probably get bleeped out. But basically, he said, this was a bleep miracle. And he wanted to know what had been done to the boy. And my dad said, we took him to a chiropractor. Well, the ophthalmologist was not impressed. He had less than favorable things to say about that. But all I knew as a 12-year-old kid is that my life had been changed. The people he sent me to put me through very painful and difficult testing. The fellow that my father had taken me to as the chiropractor was just the nicest man I'd ever met in my life after my dad. And, I had great results. And I made my decision to be a chiropractor at 12 years old, sitting in the ophthalmologist chair outside of Buffalo, New York. And so I had that experience. There's no nerve that goes from the spine to the eyeball. So the idea that somehow, how did this happen? And I was that patient that didn't have musculoskeletal problems, didn't have low back pain, didn't have neck pain, but that had this tremendous change in my physiology as a result of chiropractic care. Well, there's been all sorts of theories, and was it a blood flow issue? Was it an autonomics issue? What was going on in the process? And in the last 10 years, the neuroscience research has caught up with my circumstances as a 12-year-old boy 50 years ago, 60 years almost ago now. In catching up with it, the neuroscience has come around, and that we have moved out of a model that sees chiropractic as a biomechanical phenomenon. So that the spine is just this stack of vertebra, and all we have to do is line up the stack and everything will be fine. And it's just biomechanics.
Right.
And we've moved into the era where we understand the neurology that's involved. And everybody thinks about when they say neurology and chiropractic, they think about a pinched nerve or a sore shoulder or radiating pain or something like that. The fascinating stuff that's come out in the last few years is the feedback loop that exist between the normal movements of the spine and the feedback to the mapping of the brain and the neuroplastic changes that go on in the brain as a result of normal spinal activity, and the adverse changes that go on in neuroplasticity in terms of neuroplastically, in terms of abnormal movements in the spine.
Right. And
to take it one step further, it's not just the matter that it goes back to the motor control centers, that this feedback loop has been demonstrated, and this information flow has been demonstrated to go into the frontal cortex. So if you think about the role of the cortex, it's involved in the executive functions of the body. So this has the opportunity where not only can we demonstrate in the literature that chiropractic care helps an individual understand where their arm and their leg or their body is in space, helps them have a better orientation to sight and sound in relationship to their brain and their brain mapping, but it begins to influence the prefrontal cortex. And if we think about what could come from all of that, if you're an air traffic controller, and you've got faster reflexes and you've got a broader field of view, that's a very good thing. If you're a pilot behind that plane and you've got better understanding of where you are in space,
right,
in the cockpit of the plane and in relationship to you, all better things for you. So we have this transition now where, just as you said in the beginning of the show, we're moving out of that biomechanical situation, the biomechanical reality, which we were very good at.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for that, my father never would have gone to the chiropractor. I never would have gone to the chiropractor. So I'm very grateful for that. I don't want to minimize that.
Yes.
But the power and the magnitude of chiropractic care is in this relationship to the central nervous system, and how the normal movement of the spine. If you think about a GPS system,
right?
I use Waze as the mapping system I use, and when I'm on that system and I'm going someplace, it tells me to go to take a turn at all of a sudden and go this way because of some traffic problem over here, or it tells me to go a different way in instantaneous fashion. The spine and the feedback from the spine, in particular the joints of the spine and receptors that are called proprioceptives or position receptors, they give feedback to the central nervous system all the time, and the body takes and creates a map of yourself so that you know where you are. As you sit here today, as we all sit here, we know where our feet are, we know where our head is, we know where our arms are, we know the relationship to one another. And that mapping is based upon that constant input from the spine. And if that input is aberrant, if it's off, those are the days that we can't walk through a door without bumping the door frame, or we can't close the car door without getting our hands stuck in the door.
Yeah,
it's those that map doesn't seem to work that day.
Exactly.
And the literature is demonstrated. Some work out of Australia, New Zealand, out of Denmark, has demonstrated fascinating relationships that go far beyond the biomechanics into this next level of activity, where the spine becomes such an important, and the normal movement of the spine becomes such an important input point for the brain to better understand, create better maps, create better functions, and to allow the integration of the entire body that chiropractic care contributes to on so many levels beyond the biomechanics and the simple low back pain, neck pain realities of many people.
Excellent. Gerry, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Health Matters. I have Dr. Charles Krieger. I have Dr. David Adler here and Dr. Gerry Clum. We're going to be right back, and we're going to continue talking about how we're updating our model and our perspective of what chiropractic is and how it works. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to be the hero of your own story? It's time to put the power of your health back into your hands. Join us for our free 25-day journey to get your life back now from chronic illness. Our doctors and experts will guide you back to optimal health.
Unfortunately, medicine is now a business. It is not a healing art anymore. Commercialization has taken over medicine, and what happens is safe, inexpensive treatments are often ignored because nobody's making any serious money off of them. There is not a magic pill. My concern is helping people get well as opposed to making money off selling supplements. We're going to address some of the complications of diabetes with the right nutritional supplements.
Go to www.getyourlifebacknow.live and begin your journey today.
All right, folks, we're back. This is Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to Health Matters. We're talking about getting a new view of chiropractic today based on a lot of the current neuroscience that is available. And before I begin to ask some of my colleagues here about their clinical experiences, I want to, can everybody see this okay? This is an amazing book. I think all the gentlemen here are familiar with it. It is written by Dr. Heidi Havik. It's called The Reality Check. If you want a fantastic book that gives a lot of background information about the research that we're talking about today, she does it. And, my dad used to say you can always recognize a really, really intelligent person because they can talk about complex subject matter and make it very simple. I was very, very impressed, Heidi, with how beautifully and how succinctly you put your information together here, and you did it in a way that's so easy to understand. So if you're listening out there, Heidi, I'd like to meet you. I'd like to have you as a guest on my show. Folks, check out her book, The Reality Check. Dr. Krieger, Gerry, we'll get back to you in a second. I want to hear more about that research. Tell us about some of your clinical experiences. I know that you gentlemen have been out. You've been out for 32 years now.
33.
33, excuse me. And then you've been out for about 28.
28.
And I'm the youngster on the block who's not been out for quite 28. I'll catch up at some point. Don't worry. All right. So tell us about some of your clinical experiences. I know that we were going to talk about a lot of the great research. How does it show up in your practice? What do you see?
I just wanted to say I've been listening to Gerry. He taught me spinal anatomy in January of '81, and just before he left for Life West. And never get tired of listening to Gerry talk. Never.
Yeah, he's an amazing gentleman.
Well, in piggybacking off what Gerry's talking about, yeah, we do really well with musculoskeletal stuff. And that's not deniable. The other issue, though, the other side of it is the other things that we do. I had the great good fortune early in practice of having one of my patients come to me. I couldn't have been more than 27 years old. And she said, you know, my little girl, she's really constipated. Little, we're talking 18 months, maybe 20 months old. And the pediatric surgeon's talking about doing surgery because they're worried that she's going to get impacted. Can you help her? And I guess kind of like Gerry's dad's chiropractor, I said, I'd like to help. I'd like to try. Let's see. And sure enough, she got adjusted. And on the interesting thing, going again back to what Gerry said, adjusting the child's neck. I didn't very much adjust the child's lower spine. Mostly it was adjusting her cervical spine and her neck. And she had moved her bowels right there in my office getting adjusted. And it was a pretty awesome experience. And within a short period of time, I had about 4 or 5 moms bringing me their constipated kids. And it was a great experience, and I see that was wonderful for me because it opened my eyes very early on as to the breadth of chiropractic, which I already knew. I said my father was a chiropractor, and he got into chiropractic because he had been in the Korean conflict and came home with health problems that medical care didn't fix, and saw his brother-in-law, who had graduated from Palmer Chiropractic School, adjusted my father. His health problems went away. He stopped his electronics career, and went to chiropractic school. Curiously, his brother-in-law got into chiropractic because he wanted to enlist in World War II and was told, well, you have a bad heart, you can't enlist, and went to a chiropractor, got adjusted, and his heart problem cleared up. So it kind of bumped down through the generations there.
Fantastic. Excellent. Great share. Dr. Adler, you know, we're all interested in getting the message out to the world that, yes, we're very proud of the fact that we handle musculoskeletal issues, and we've had all of us here participating today have had countless injuries. I know I have. I'm the poster child for pretty much any injury you can imagine due to my fighting background, my running, and my heavy lifting. So I won't embarrass myself by telling you all the nasty injuries I've developed, but let's talk now about going into another area. So we know we're great in many cases in helping people reestablish their health after a trauma. Give me a little feedback. What are your thoughts about using chiropractic for health and maintenance? And after you're done, Gerry, you're up, sir, because I want to hear any research you have on it, okay?
I just want to take a moment, and Gerry, as your introduction to chiropractic came from what we call miracles within our profession, I too had a young 8-year-old just over a year ago who was having grand mal seizures, 20 minutes every night, and every test was done, nothing was abnormal. Clearly something's abnormal. So we started I said the same thing. We'll adjust him, we'll take a look and see what we can do. And the mom said to me, well, he's going to the hospital next week and they plan on inducing a seizure and then finding where the seizure is and going inside the brain and cauterizing it. And I'm like, well, that's pretty aggressive. So let's see what we can do. So first adjustment, it went from 20 minutes to 2 minutes. Second adjustment went 2 minutes to 20 seconds. And the third, he never had another one to this day. Now, what I explained to the mother was how that happened as I saw it. And I said and taught, you know, if you look back at the embryo, what's the first thing that develops is the primitive spinal cord, brain. And literally every one of our organ systems grow, heart, lungs, kidney, eyes, ears, whatever, from this root. And we stay connected through our lifetime. So the spine is merely a covering. And if that covering gets distorted, in this child's case, it was a traumatic birth that literally twisted his head one direction and his top vertebra called the atlas in another, and put severe pressure on the spinal cord, and he was not able to express his ability to heal or function normally. So by removing that, We restored what was given at the moment of conception, that connection that was there from the moment that happened and stays with us until we're not here anymore.
Interesting. I want to share something briefly. We talk about the breadth of chiropractic. One of the problems that I had that made going to school really a problem for me was that I was that kid that I didn't see well, I didn't hear well, and I was horrifically dyslexic. And I remember taking a book up to my second or third grade teacher, and I opened it, and I said to her, "Miss So-and-so, how do you stop the words from flipping back and forth?" And she said, "What? Nelson, go sit down, for heaven's sake. Stop being silly." And I thought, I'm not being silly at all. That was a literal question. How do you stop it? How do you stop the words from going back and forth? Well, interestingly, when I was 15, I started getting chiropractic care, and miraculously, it didn't completely go away, but suddenly I could pick up a book like Heidi's here, and I could open it up, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about the words flipping in position. It's pretty difficult to read when you're reading a sentence and the words keep switching spaces. Try that sometime. Gerry, let's talk again. Is there any research out there, prevailing research, that suggests that chiropractic is good for general health care, general well-being and maintenance? Anything you want to share with us?
Well, yeah, there is. There was a paper that was published in the journal Spine, excuse me, toward the end of 2017. So it's maybe 6 months old at this point.
Right.
Still quite relevant and valid. And it was very interesting because it was published. It was written by, the lead author was a Australian researcher. There was authors from the Netherlands, from the UK. They were all non-Americans. And they looked at a data set from the U.S. federal government called the National Health Interview Survey. And from the National Health Interview Survey, they took a sample of 34,525 individuals who had participated in the survey, and they began to analyze what their experiences were under chiropractic care. And just as you said, the majority of them, the infinite majority, 90+%, began their experience with chiropractic care because of back pain and neck pain. But what they reported, which was fascinating, 43% of this population said that chiropractic contributed to their overall general health and well-being. And they indicated that, for example, in relationship to their problem, there was in excess of a 92% response rate to the problems, the neck pain and the headache that brought them to chiropractic care. And they continued the care, and they expressed in the context of this survey, and you're going to think I'm making this up, and I'm not, because it is so remarkable, that, for example, 43% of this population said that they slept better after chiropractic care.
Yeah, that's not hard at all to believe.
Yeah.
33% said they handled stress better after chiropractic care. 40% said, let me just check one data point here. I want to make sure I get it right.
Sure.
32% said that they had a greater control and a greater sense of control over their health and well-being after their interface with the chiropractor. Now, these are great results. And when you talk about general health and well-being, the ability to deal with sleep, the ability to deal with stress, the ability to deal with a sense of control over your health and well-being,
right,
are essential realities.
Yes.
And I don't care what condition you have.
That's right.
If you have a cancerous condition, if you have a chronic degenerative disease, and you have these capacities as well, your life is much better. No
question.
So when we think about this research, it was really quite fascinating. The lead author was a fellow by the name of John Adams. Again, the journal was Spine, and it was a 2017 pub. And out of this study, we realize that while low back pain and neck pain might have brought the person to the office, like each one of us just related a moment ago, the experiences that we had once we were in the office changed our attitudes and our approaches to health. Excuse me. And people think of chiropractic, the chiropractic experience as the adjustment. And I would say let's take a broader perspective on that. It is the adjustment, but it's also the orientation, the attitude of the provider. It's also the expectation and the resources that a chiropractor brings with their emphasis on natural living, their emphasis on better exercise, their emphasis on better diet, things of that nature, all contribute to this perception of how dramatically chiropractic care has affected the lives of these individuals that go far, far beyond the original reason that brought them into the office. So I think there's very significant evidence. And what I like about this study in particular, and the reason I bring it up today, excuse me, I'm drying out here a little bit, is this is going to the horse's mouth. This isn't your opinion or my opinion or some researchers in Australia's opinion. This is the end user of chiropractic care, the people we serve day in and day out. And this is the conclusions that they have related to our federal government in this survey. And it's a pretty impressive data set.
Absolutely.
With a very solid methodology and a very large sample as well. To have a 80% response rate in a survey of near 35,000 people is a staggering response.
It really is.
Yeah.
Gerry, gentlemen, we're going to take another quick break so our providers, our hosts can get a word in. This is Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to Health Matters. We're talking about chiropractic today. We'll be right back.
Hi there. I'm Dr. Amy Dayries, a general and integrative dentist in Roswell, Georgia, and I'm also a spokesperson for the American Dental Association. You know, as a dentist, I tell my patients that the mouth is the window to one's overall health, just as the eyes are the window to one's soul. After working in general dentistry for the last 25 years, it has become my desire to offer good health resource information to everyone around me, empowering members of the public to become their best, healthiest selves. The Whole Healing Radio Show features practitioners from dentistry, healthcare, and nutrition about the cutting-edge techniques available. Together, my guests and I will show you how to implement lifestyle changes, achieve your personal goals for health, and heal the parts of you that may have been forgotten. When your health is intact, you can go on to manifest your ultimate dreams. Become the best version of yourself. Join me, Dr. Amy Dayries, on the Whole Healing Radio Show to learn how.
All right, folks, we're back. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. My guests on my left, Dr. Charles Krieger. On my right, we have Dr. David Adler and Dr. Gerry Clum. Thank you again, gentlemen. Gerry, I want to finish up here real quickly with you because what you said is so true. I mean, all of us, of course, have been adjusted many, many times, and who doesn't sleep better, who doesn't have general better function? Our nervous system allows for the proper coordination of everything, and the better the nervous system works, the more effectively all our systems are optimized. Just out of curiosity, Gerry, are you familiar with a study that was done probably back in the, I'm going to guess somewhere around 1990, 1991? I don't remember if it was Emory University, but there was a study done with AIDS patients, and I think it was Emory, who did work with AIDS patients where they had people who got an adjustment, people who got a placebo adjustment, if you will. In other words, they had it set up so it looked like it. They were using a machine device. They didn't actually get the adjustment, and how powerfully it increased, those who got the adjustment, how powerfully it increased killer cell activity. Are you familiar with that study?
I am. That study was done by Dr. John Grostick Jr., and he was in the research department at Life Chiropractic College at the time. And I don't know that Emory was involved, but I know it was a study. It was in the early days of the AIDS epidemic.
Yes.
And John was looking at the immunostimulation capacity of an adjustment.
Right.
And what he was tracking was the counts of CD4 cells before and after adjustments, and there were very dramatic spikes in CD4 cells, which are those killer cells you made reference to.
Yes.
That happened after the delivery of chiropractic care, and as we understand now, that there is not an immune tissue in the body that does not have sympathetic nerve supply.
Right.
And when we talk about how stress influences and affects our immunity, well, it's because of that sympathetic relationship that those immune organs are tied to that sympathetic nervous system function and so on. And so the significance of the interface between the nervous system and the immune system that Dr. Grostic was after in those early studies, it is very logical and very reasonable, and there was a great response among those HIV positive patients. Yes.
I want to suggest, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I certainly would never want to exaggerate, didn't the individuals getting the adjustment have approximately a 48% increase in killer cell activity, and those who got the placebo adjustment, I think, had a decrease of 8.8%? Does that ring a bell?
I'd have to take your word on that. I don't know that, remember it in that detail.
Well, I'm
impressed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. If somebody's out there and they, we have a call in. I think I'm correct about that. The point I'm making is that one of the things that I really want people to understand, if we're talking about the power and the breadth of chiropractic, is how powerfully it improves immune function. Yeah. You know, one of the things my kids, even when they were very young, they used to get sick, which, by the way, wasn't very often. But if they got, for example, viral infection, one of the first things they used to say is, "Daddy, I need to be adjusted. I'm not feeling well." And it was remarkable. And once again, I'm not suggesting that we treat the viral infection. What I'm suggesting is that we clear and optimize the nervous system function and the alignment. And by doing so, we get an increase, is the point I was making, of killer cell activity. And we tend to knock those pathogens out quicker. All right, gentlemen, we have a caller. Wahid, what do I need to do? Oh, hello. This is Dr. Bulmesh. You're listening to Health Matters.
Hello?
Hello. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Jack.
Hi, Jack. How are you today?
I'm okay, and I'm interested because in your show, because my friends have been encouraging me to try chiropractic, and I'm leery because I understand once you try it, you have to do it all the time.
Okay.
You sort of get hooked on it or something like that.
I gotcha. So what's your question? Do you have to get hooked on it? Is it true?
Yes. Is that true? I mean, do you then have a chiropractic monkey on your back?
Well, Jack, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. David Adler, and he's going to address your question. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Hey, Jack, thanks for calling in. I get that a lot, and the one thing I teach and say in my office is, from a very young age, we're taught to brush and floss our teeth, and we keep that healthy, and we do it through our lifetime, get checkups periodically. The spine is no different. The spine needs checkups and alignment and tweaking. In the beginning phases, we often see patients to realign, reteach the muscles, the ligaments, the proprioception that we talked about earlier. And then over a period of time, less and less frequently. But in my office, I tell my patients, no smoke and mirrors. I'd like to take care of you forever. But on a sense that we're just making sure we're supporting what we're doing. So if you floss and brush and you understand oral hygiene, the same effect occurs with spinal hygiene.
All right. Jack, thank you very much for your call. We appreciate it. Anybody else, let me remind you, the number 678-495-4345. We'd be happy to take your calls. Okay, thank you so much for that, Gerry. Let's talk about performance. One of the things that is very near and dear to me as somebody who's been a coach at a national and world level and has been the American representative as a doctor on some of the top strength teams that the United States has put out, I am fascinated, and my love is all about performance. Anything athletic, though, as we know, we also get an improvement in cognitive function as well. Dr. Krieger, thoughts?
Well, all we have to do is to look at the professional teams in this country, and then I assume other countries. I don't believe that there's an NFL team that doesn't have at least one or two chiropractors on that team. There's I'm not a big sports guy, but I know from observing the data, basketball player by the name of John Stockton, who is I think with the Utah Jazz, had an injury to his ankle, and interestingly enough, he saw a chiropractor and it resolved. And then from that point forward, he and his teammates received chiropractic care, not to treat injuries that they received, but to prevent injuries from occurring. And that team had the lowest rate of injury of any NBA team of many seasons.
Wow.
So there you go.
Dr. Adler,
and that goes back to what Gerry was saying earlier, is that it's that feedback loop between brain and body and brain. When these high-level athletes get injured, they have the best trainers and surgeons and whatever they may need. But where they get their edge is that their systems are working at such a different level because the communication channels are clear. It's that simple. You know, you look at, what was it, Emmett Smith, who broke the running record, and he thanked, I think it was God, his family, and his chiropractor. Pretty good order. and he did it not because of the injury aspect of it, but it allowed every single movement, every single communication from brain to body, body to brain, the perception, everything just worked better, and he was able to not only prolong his career, but have one heck of a career.
Now, kind of sort of piggybacking on that, to the question the gentleman asked before about once you go get adjusted, you have to go forever. That experience is not that people have to go forever, but once you experience a higher degree of function, you know, you may choose to go forever. You may choose to say, hey, you know what? I feel better when I get adjusted. Just like, you know what? I feel better when I get 8 hours of sleep compared to staying up until 3 in the morning eating bonbons.
Yeah.
So there's the idea that what Dave's talking about, the increase of function and communication within the body, when you experience that, hey, I choose to feel that way all the time.
It certainly is. It's,
You know, Dave,
it's choices. Go ahead, Gerry.
Nelson, there's a paper, a number of papers on this subject that came out of the Dr. Havok, whose book you have, and she's a dear friend, and I could listen to her lecture forever. She's just got a great style and great content. But she, in cooperation with a gentleman by the name of Professor Kamal Turker, who is a world-class neurophysiologist from Koch University in Istanbul, working in a lab in Denmark at Aalborg University, evaluated the responses of chiropractic students, healthy subjects, in terms of their cortical drive and muscle response time, and then they evaluated an elite Taekwondo Olympic level team, and their cortical drive before and after adjustments. And then they went on to assess a population of post-stroke patients and the ability of the brain to generate the pre-movement signals that are necessary for movement to occur, and this cortical drive that I'm speaking of. And there was approximately a 15% increase in cortical drive among the students. Among the elite athletes, it was in excess of a 6% drive.
Wow.
Now we're talking about people at the top of their career, ideal age, fit beyond imagination,
right,
and they picked up 6%. Among the post-stroke population, there was a 44% increase in cortical drive that resulted after a single chiropractic adjustment.
It's incredible.
And that's the kind of drive change that you're talking about, and that an athlete such as an Emmett Smith or a Jerry Rice or a Joe Montana, where you and I might not pick up a change in our bodies after an adjustment, I've had the good fortune of taking care of one or two of folks at that level, and they are so attuned. They are so finely adjusted. They register and are become aware of changes instantaneously that happen as a result of chiropractic care. And that's what brings those Olympic athletes back. They know everybody in their league is talented.
Yes, they do.
Everybody in their league is capable. They know everybody on any day can beat the other one, and they want anything they can do to get that edge, and chiropractic care provides that. And I think a significant part of that is that cortical drive issue, as well as that feedback discussion that we had in the beginning.
Gerry, I'm going to share a fun story with you. Some years ago, there were a lot of the NFL players. There's somebody very well known here in Atlanta who trains them. And so I had quite a few NFL players showing up in my office, and I want to share a really fun story with you. I can't use his name. He asked me not to. Some of the athletes are very, very picky. They don't want anybody to think they're injured. So some of them say, please don't say that I'm seeing you. I don't want that notion to get out that I'm being treated for something. But I asked one of these all-pro wide receivers one day. He was making somewhere between $10 and $12 million a year. And I said to him, look, I have a question for you. And he said, what's your question, Nelson? I said, why do you see me after every workout? And he said to me, are you serious, Nelson? I said, yes, I'm serious. I mean, I know it's effective, but I want to hear what you have to say. And he said, well, let me talk dollars and cents to you. I said, okay. He said, I'm an all-pro wide receiver. I start on my team. He said, do you know what the difference in pay is between me and the second string wide receiver? I said, first of all, I have no idea what you make, and I have no idea what he makes. He said, well, I make between $10 and $12 million a year with bonuses. I said, wow, that's a lot of money. He said, so what do you think the second string guy makes? I said, I'm going to guess probably about $1.2 million. He said, that's exactly correct. Good guess. What do you think the third string guy makes? And I said, probably half of that. He said, very, very good. He said, now take a guess what the difference is between my skill set and the second string. I said, arguably, you would tell me that your hands are better, but I'm going to guess in terms of speed, you're probably maybe a step and a half faster. Very, very, very good. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think happens if my nervous system and my structure are not optimized? I said, oh, got it. You lose that 1 to 1.5 step. He said, exactly. What do you think happens if I do that? I said, then you're going to lose that $10 to $12 million contract a year. He said, you're a smart guy. So, in other words, athletes really, really get it. It makes an enormous difference. And 6% is a huge number when you're doing everything else appropriately. All right, so we're ready. Gerry, can you hold that thought for just a second? Well, I've got to give a quick break. This is Health Matters. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. We'll be back in a second. I have Dr. Charles Krieger and Dr. David Adler and Dr. Gerry Clum. We'll be right back. We're talking about readjusting your perspective on chiropractic.
Are you ready to be the hero of your own story? It's time to put the power of your health back into your hands. Join us for our free 25-day journey to get your life back now from chronic illness. Our doctors and experts will guide you back to optimal health.
Okay, the standard of care. 3 Australian oncologists did a meta-analysis. That's the cream de cream of research in 2004. And they found that when they analyzed all the research studies published in the English language in Australia and in the United States, that when you take stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 cancer, combine them, that the average survival for 5 years is 60%. And when you add chemotherapy to that, you improve it to 62%. Okay? So a 2% increase in survival rate over 5 years for $300,000 of expense, all the pain and anguish and suffering that you go through with chemotherapy. Great return on investment, don't you think?
Go to www.getyourlifebacknow.live and begin your journey today.
All right, folks, we're back. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. My guests are Dr. Charles Krieger, Dr. David Adler, and Dr. Gerry Clum, calling us in on Skype from San Francisco. Gerry, forgive me, I interrupted you, sir. What were you going to say?
I was just going to add an amen to the perspective.
Oh. Excellent. Thank you. So, gentlemen, I want to open up the floor here, and I want to hear your comments or your thoughts. Is there anything in particular that you gentlemen would like to share?
Well, one of the things I heard a long time ago from the current president of Life University, Dr. Guy Reekman, who's been in the profession since the 70s, and it was back when I was in New York in the early 90s, and he was giving a lecture to a group of our colleagues, and he spoke about what we're talking about here from a really interesting point of view, that chiropractic operates in not two different worlds, but two simultaneous worlds, where we have what he called the Newtonian world of the back pain, neck pain, very linear A to B, and the Einsteinian world of what we're learning about now, and what Dr. Havik was able to begin to show us the reality of, that we're great at back pain, we're great at neck pain and headaches, and we also have this ability, because of how the nervous system operates the body and how well the body wants to work under proper adjustment of the spine, to foster changes that are not so linear, not like, as Gerry was talking about, not this nerve is being pinched and it goes to this organ, but the more dynamic view of that communication between brain and body and brain. So not to take away from, as Gerry said, not to take away from the back pain and neck pain, because I don't know about other people, but I've had my back go out, and your world stops if you can't get off the floor, right? So there's a lot to be said about getting rid of someone's back pain or neck pain. At the same time, what I tell my patients, if you look at chiropractic as a yardstick, back pain and neck pain are an inch out of those 36 inches.
Okay. Got it. Beautiful. Dave?
You got a call, I think.
Do we have a call?
Yes, I think it's Clevis. It sounds like it's a testimonial.
Okay. You're on with Dr. Nelson Bulmash and Company. Hello?
Hey, Nelson, it's Cletus Henderson.
Wow. Wow, there's a voice from the past. Wow, that's incredible, Cleet. Thank you for calling. You're calling from where in Michigan?
In Swartz Creek, Michigan.
Swartz Creek, Michigan. My very old dear friend and training partner. What's your question, my friend?
Well, it's more of a testimonial. Do you remember Tina Tremblay?
Yes, certainly.
The young woman we went to school with?
Yes.
Well, she, I'm not sure the timeline, but because I found out about it on Facebook, but she had a sudden hearing loss at some point in the recent past. And after, much searching and for solutions to this problem, she ended up within a chiropractor's office, and he ended up doing an Atlas adjustment.
Yes.
And her hearing immediately returned.
Wow. Wow. That's so interesting. First of all, I didn't know that. I haven't heard anything about her in many, many years. I'm sorry for her misfortune, but how magnificent that her hearing returned. That's incredible. What a great story, Cleet.
Yep. Well, and I also use chiropractor. I go to a chiropractor every week. Nelson knows my background. I'm basically 54-year-old power lifter, so I have need for adjustments quite often.
And a very, very, very good power lifter, I might add. Very, very good. Yeah. Cleet, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to hear from you and have you on the show. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'll talk to you later. Buddy.
Very, very good. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye. What a great story. Wow, I had no idea that was somebody I grew up with. Well, gentlemen, we're to the point in the show that I call Final Thoughts. Final Thoughts is where I ask you your final thoughts, anything you want to add, anything you want to address, anything you want to leave our listeners with today as your final message. Please, each of you, feel free to take, 3 or so minutes.
Dave's turn.
Okay.
So one of the things to tie things together that we're talking about today is I teach all the time that no matter what you do, whether it's a surgical procedure, injections, medication, chiropractic adjustments, meditation, massage, the body is always doing the healing. And when we talked about everything, summing it up, is that you just do it better when the nervous system and the body is able to communicate at the highest level, just like the pro athletes or the older person who had a knee replacement. It just works better. So, we get stuck on conditions, we talk about diagnoses, and these are important. Our medical colleagues do great work. But, can we get these things to work better? Can we get patients to heal faster? The number one thing, we joked about it, but the number one thing I hear in my office, Doc, I don't know what's going on, but since I've been adjusted, I'm actually sleeping. Mm-hmm. I sleep better is my number one thing that I hear, above and beyond the abatement of their symptom. So, I'm grateful to be able to do what I do, and I love the miracles that we get all day. And I love, I was fortunate enough to hear Dr. Havoc speak many times, and she's beyond brilliant, and it's great to have this information of what we've seen clinically happening for decades starting to come into the science, and it's wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And in a moment, before we go, I'm going to allow you to have the opportunity to share how people can reach out to you.
Great.
All right. Gerry, your thoughts. You have a few minutes, sir. What do you have to say?
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to participate with you today and in this venue. I've enjoyed it very, very much.
Thank you, Gerry. It's a pleasure.
I think the most important thing that I would say is everyone needs to understand that their health is their responsibility. And you may come under the care of a provider, whether that be a chiropractor, whether that be a medical physician, whatever it might be. But ultimately, your health is your responsibility. You've got to do the work. You've got to make the investment of time and energy to do the right things that will get you there. And that all of us as healthcare providers are there to help you with that relatively small percentage that's outside of your control. So much of this is within your hands, quite literally, no pun intended, as a chiropractor.
Yeah, very good.
For you to be able to alter your reality, and you've got to get in the game. And the more you get in the game, the more you take care of yourself in a real constructive and positive way over time, the less you're going to need of all healthcare providers, the less you're going to spend on all healthcare. And that would be our fondest dream. So we encourage you to obviously, I don't know how people live without chiropractic care. I get my adjustments on a regular basis, regardless of whatever symptoms I might have. And I personally think that's a great resource for anybody in relationship to their health. But don't neglect the things that are fully and totally within your control and your purview to direct and to change for yourself, for your family, and for your future. I wish you the best, and thank you again for the opportunity.
You are very, very welcome. Charles, sir, what do you have to say?
Well, to what David was talking about earlier, that the majority of health problems that we see, not just chiropractors, that we see, we as a society, are what we call chronic health problems. The fancy, the science fiction-ish almost interventions of these crisis and emergencies, they're wonderful, they're amazing. That's a rather small part of what's draining our healthcare dollars. And the chronic problems that people suffer with are what will have the best result from chiropractic care. So if I tell my patients, if you're having a heart attack, please don't come to my office. I'm not going to do much for you. I'm just going to call the ambulance and, watch them come and take you away. But when it comes to optimizing our function and helping people, as Gerry was saying, to be another part or a big part of that healthcare responsibility, taking the responsibility to be healthy, as one of our teachers said once, what's responsibility? The ability to respond, right? The ability to recognize that your health requires your attention, and and again, to say what Gerry said, as far as I'm concerned, you're pretty much required to get chiropractic care if you're going to have optimal health. Doesn't mean you're going to be sick or you're not going to be having a good time on the planet without chiropractic care, but that to be optimal, to be really healthy, you need chiropractic adjustments.
Excellent. Gentlemen, we have 2 minutes left. I want to be very clear. Nobody today has suggested that chiropractic care is a cure for anything, as you have gathered in listening. I want you to understand, though, it is a vital modality in your healing arsenal. The role of chiropractic is that it not only increases general function, but it increases performance. It helps to increase, in many cases, immunity. And in doing so, we get to think, function, and feel in an idealized way. So if you haven't seen a chiropractor, please do so. It will help you perform, whether it be to think or to act. It's funny, I have people who come to me who say, Nelson, I've got an acting role. I need to clear out my nervous system. I have a multi-million-dollar deal. I need to be as sharp as it gets. Clear me out. Nelson, I'm competing in a world. I have people who literally fly in to have me work on them for world championships. So don't be a stranger to chiropractic. Go out and find somebody who suits your needs. There are all kinds of different chiropractors. We have a diverse array of different formats for helping people. Some are very gentle, some are not as gentle, but all are very, very, very effective. Let me give my guests an opportunity to indicate how you may reach them. Dr. Adler, please, how can people get a hold of you?
My office is in Roswell, Holcomb Bridge in Old Alabama. My telephone number is 770-594-2233. You can also see us on the web at Adler Chiro, AdlerChiro.com.
Dr. Krieger?
Yeah, I'm on Roswell. I'm on Warsaw Road in Roswell. The name of the office is Krieger Health Solutions. The number is 770-993-4425. And you can see us on the web at KriegerHealthSolutions.com.
Gerry, how may people reach out to you?
The easiest way is my email address is gerard.clum@life.edu.
Excellent. Gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you. It has been a joy to participate with you. Ladies and gentlemen, you can join me back here in 2 weeks on July 10th. I go live at 5. I am Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You have listened to another edition of Health Matters. I'm signing out. I look forward to seeing and hearing from you all then. Have a great night.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, where we help you discover how to ignite your mind, body, and spirit connection. Join us next time when we will bring you more exciting guests and engaging topics. Meanwhile, feed your mind, exercise your body, and nurture your spirit. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.